Who loves cheese and crackers? I do! And I really love those spiced fruit and nut cookies that you spend like $10 on for a little sleeve of them at the grocery store. They're so delicious with cheese, and today we're gonna make them. So no more $10 crackers for this gal. The first thing we gotta do is we're gonna bake a loaf. And then we're gonna freeze it, slice it, and rebake it again like a biscotti cookie, but this is a cracker, and we'll get those delicious crispy fruit and nut crackers in the end. So the first thing we gotta start with is in here I have 1 cup of flour. You can also do a mixture of whole wheat flour, regular flour. Even if you have some sort of cool flour, like a rye flour might be really good in this too. I would just do it half and half regular flour, half whatever else you got in your house. I just have white flour. Then to that, I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. We're going to add a half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, and then this is the fun part. You can play around with different flavors. I'm gonna do a couple of different dried spices, but just use whatever you want. So I'm gonna do half a teaspoon of paprika, just for a little sweetness and color, half a teaspoon of dried rosemary, half a teaspoon of dried thyme, and half a teaspoon of cinnamon. So that'll give it a nice kind of sweet, spicy, herby flavor. Then I'm gonna add 1/4 cup brown sugar and half a cup of oats. Any kind of oats will work in this. We just want to toss this all together until it's mixed up. Crush up any of those brown sugar bits. You don't want a big chunk of brown sugar because it will melt and give you a really crispy one chunk of your loaf. Cool, so that looks great. And then to that, I have 1 cup of milk and 1/4 cup of sour cream. You can also use yogurt, you can use buttermilk. If you don't have either, you could use applesauce or pumpkin puree will work really good in this too. And I'm just gonna stir this until it's combined. And then we're gonna add in our fruit and nuts. So I have dried cranberries and sliced almonds, but use whatever you've got. If you don't have any nuts, you can also use seeds like sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds are good. Perfect. So we're going to add half a cup of dried cranberries or whatever dried fruit you want. A little extra for good measure. And then half a cup of almonds or whatever nut or seed you want. And normally I pre-toast my nuts, but in this case we're double baking it, so it's going to get toasted on that second bake anyways. Lovely, so we'll just toss that together till it's combined. And then I've got a greased and lined loaf pan here. I'm just gonna pour it into that, bake it at a 350-degree oven, probably about 40 minutes until it comes out clean when I stab it with a toothpick. So I get that in there, pop it in the oven, and then we wait. Awesome. All right, in the oven we go. So our loaf baked for about 45 minutes. It's lightly golden. When I stab it with a toothpick, whoop, it comes out clean, nothing goopy on there. So I'm gonna let this cool at room temperature till it's cooled down, and then I'll pop it into the freezer for 1 to 2 hours. We want it to be frozen so we can slice it really thinly, but we don't want it to be frozen like a rock because I'm not that strong. But so I'm just gonna let this cool. Probably will be in the freezer for about an hour after that. Our little loaf has been in the freezer for about 1.5 hours. It's still a little bit soft, but it's definitely firmed up a bit, which is gonna help us cut this really thinly. So I'm gonna use a serrated knife and just cut as thin as I can, ideally around 1/8 of an inch or like 2 millimeters. But just do what you can. And if they break, it's okay. We'll just have random shaped crackers. And then I have 2 trays I just lined with a parchment paper. You just want to lay them flat in a single layer on that. And then I've got my oven preheated to 250, so pretty low. And we're just gonna dry out the crackers once they get all tried out. So I'll just get cutting that as thinly as possible. Oh, look already how great this looks, little nuts and fruits in there. So I've sliced up all of my crackers and they're all laid out in a nice single file on 2 trays. So they're gonna go into a preheated 250-degree oven for probably about 30 to 45 minutes just to get dried out. We don't really wanna bake them anymore, we're just drying them to get all that extra moisture out. So I'll get those baking. So our crackers baked for about 40 minutes at a 250-degree oven. They've just started to lightly brown on the edges, and if you feel them, they feel like they're drying up. So even if they're a touch soft in the middle, some of them are a little thicker than others, that's fine. Once they cool, they're gonna firm up, and then they'll be actually like crispy and perfect. And then these guys can just be stored in an airtight container or Ziploc bag for even a couple of weeks if they last that long. But they're super good with cheese. They're super beautiful on a charcuterie board. Like, look at this. Imagine getting a bag of these with a piece of cheese. It's like my dream gift. Awesome, well thanks for joining me. I'm really happy with how these turned out, and definitely tag me if you make it. I would love to see them. Have a great day.